We on and popping?
I think
Not
we're
yet. Giving it a little more time.
Hey, Jessica.
Hi.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, Domingo. Just happy to be here with the good people.
Good, good, man. I just got uptown, man. Traffic was crazy today.
I do not miss that part about New York. I'm not gonna lie.
Shit, there's a lot of things about New York you can't miss, man.
What's up, Vlad?
How's it going, my brother?
Still breathing.
Andrew, you don't miss the traffic and the rats and the garbage and the snow on the street, my brother?
Man, there's rats everywhere. But
And the
it's the
Target
little
price,
things that I do miss. I miss legally being able to smoke out on the street wherever you can smoke a cigarette. That's for sure.
Okay. Where's Francisco? He's not in here yet.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. We
Yeah,
got
he's here.
no, we're just having a little bit of a snag here with the
Yeah,
link.
people text me that they having trouble joining.
Yeah, I had to send people the other link that I have. That's why there were more people than one person with my name, because the link that I sent them wasn't working for some reason.
I'm trying to resend this link out. Make sure that we get it right.
No problem. Hi, Jessica.
Hey girl, how's it going?
Fine. How you been?
I'm good. I'm good. I can't complain.
The Cana Abogada.
She's here.
Kind of
All right, guys.
the version, Pagoda.
We can
Abogada, Ramon.
get started. It is 7:08 p.m. today. Wanted to get my community board folks. Can we get an okay on the agenda?
Yeah, I motion.
Okay. We need a second.
I second it, Francisco.
All right, all right. So today our focus is from legacy to legal. Me and Domingo here are kind of taking the ball for this community and this community board to make sure that our guys on the corner, our guys who've been targeted, our gals who've been targeted, who just for smoking in the park, are the benefit that we are collectively seeking and seeing that's coming up is something that I want everybody in the heights, in those corners, to understand what we're trying to do as far as, collectively bringing that information to them, so they are armored and ready for when these licenses come out in 2023.
Yeah, and Francisco, let's not forget the phoenixes that rose literally from the ashes, right?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs who were able to develop empires previous to legalization that could potentially transition to a market and also create powerhouses as well.
100%. And all the opportunities that we were stripped of, time taken away from families, so on and so forth. So today, me and Domingo, we've collectively put this group of folks together. I just want to kind of just introduce everyone here. Safita, am I saying it right? Safita, you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, that's perfect.
Safita Artist, yeah. National Cannabis Party. I'm gonna go down the list. We have Jessica Gonzalez, cannabis attorney, activist. We have folks here from Happy Monkey, who are one of Uptown's best, not necessarily in our district, but Harlem nonetheless. They represent our people, so it's important. We have Vlad from Happy Monkey. We have, is Vanessa here?
Vanessa is not.
She had a family emergency, but Ramon is there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna go right to my man Ramon. They represent Happy Monkey, which is a cannabis brand, who will also, when we talk about legacy to legal, they are the prime example of what it can look like for all of us who want to partake.
Let's not forget, it's a cannabis lifestyle brand. If I'm
Lifestyle brand.
right,
Okay,
Vlad?
my bad.
Correct.
Correct. So yeah, I'll start off by saying hi. I'm Ramon Reyes. I am
Wait,
from.
Ramon, let me get through. Let me get through. We got one more person, and then I want you to do your thing. And then we got Tucky Blunt. He's graced us with his presence all the way from the west side, the west coast of America. He's another example of what legacy to legal looks like. He's the owner of Blunts and More in Oakland, California. So I just want to thank you, King, for being here with us and giving us your time and energy. I would love for Happy Monkey to get the ball rolling and give us a little background so we all here in attendance can understand you guys better. Ramon, please.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, well, there's some people who do know me and those who don't. My name is Ramon Reyes. I come from Uptown Manhattan, 157th Street and Broadway. I went to George Washington High School. So, I'm born and bred uptown, raised Dominican parents, all of the above, right? Been in the weed industry pretty much my whole life. But we pivoted starting a brand in 2017. What that did for us was kind of like, take all our brain power and all our network and everything that we've been doing prior to that, bring it to one space and bring it to one area. We were able to kind of like, pivot off the event situation. We took a risk, me and Vlad took a risk and we jumped ahead of the curve. And instead of, bringing, just opening up a spot or a bodega like everybody else did, we kind of took it to another level to where we started catering to people as far as nightclub style and VIP style. And, from there it led to, going to conferences, becoming activists and doing all these things that we were already kind of doing at home and with the blocks and with the fellas and me with the travels and all this stuff. But we figured it was kind of time to kind of change things up, and it led to where we at now. And, we ended up building on a brand solely based on the networks that we already had prior to the whole legal industry that's here now, right? So just saying that we were able to use what we have to get what we wanted. So that's pretty much the message that I kind of want to let everybody know. If you want to, we could get further into detail later, but that's the gist of it.
And I think we also have to provide a pretext as to why this month is legacy to legal, right? Prior, Francisco had an event last month where the discussion was a much more broader around licensing, etc. This is more focused around the transition of individuals who seek to transition from legacy to legal, and some of the, I would say, expert advice and also areas to explore via the conversation of opportunities as well.
All right. So before we move on, right, let's get the simple things out the way, right? So what is legal and what is not, right? So right now, what we have in legalization is that, yes, it's recreational. You can smoke weed. You can smoke weed outside. You can smoke weed wherever people can smoke cigarettes, right? Technically, if you're smoking near a church, near a school, near these places, you can get in trouble, right? You're able to carry a certain amount. You're able to carry up to 3 ounces in your backpack, your fucking back pocket, wherever you want, as long as you're traveling, you're not driving. Just these things, right? You're able to store 5 pounds in your house legally, right? So these are just little things that people just don't know. That's when things turn legal, these are the things that it came with, right? You're not in any, they don't, in the regulations, you cannot sell weed. Right now, they don't let anyone sell weed, right? So let's just be conscious of these things.
Okay. Ramon, I want to let some of the ladies speak now. Jessica, can you please give us a little background of your work and what you do in Jersey as well?
Sure. So hello, everybody. I am not from New York. I originally hail from Ecuador, where I was born, but I was raised in Jersey City, so just right across the Hudson River. I am a cannabis attorney, an activist, and advocate here in New Jersey. So a couple of hats, that I wear in the space is, one, I'm an attorney at Hiller PC, which, if anybody's not familiar with the firm, it's the firm that sued the DEA and Jeff Sessions and petitioned the Supreme Court to deschedule cannabis on constitutional grounds. I'm also outside general counsel for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I used to sit on the policy committee for the Minority Cannabis Business Association, a board member of NJ Normal. I was also a member of NJ CAN, which, if anybody remembers, it was the coalition that helped push forward legalization in New Jersey, and it ended up being the most successful cannabis legalization campaign in the country. And I led the social impact committee to ensure that the conversation stayed on equitable legalization, not just legalization. So I've had a hand in helping draft law on the statutory level, regulations on the regulatory level, and then I even had a hand in helping ensure that Jersey City's ordinance was also taking into consideration social equity. So I wear a lot of different hats in the space, but in terms of my day job and what I do, I'm currently now assisting applicants who are looking to pursue state cannabis applications in both New York and New Jersey, and very proud to say that every single one of my clients is a fully owned, minority owned business. So I'm switching my advocacy over to more of the, for the hearings and going to legislature, to more now ensuring that there's as many entrepreneurs of color in cannabis as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. And then finally, Safida, artist, if you can explain a little bit about the National Cannabis Party and what are some of your goals and some of the things you guys are working on.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Safida, and I am the president of the National Cannabis Party, as well as one of the co-founders, along with Redman and Andrew Barringer and Damon Jackson. And the purpose of the National Cannabis Party was to create a political party that represents cannabis on a federal level, making sure that there is fair representation and that it is equitable for everyone in the industry on the business side, as well as when it comes to medical cannabis. I always say that no matter how you utilize cannabis, it is still medicine. And I think that that needs to be in the forefront of people's minds, especially as the industry continues to be shaped into a sustainable market, because there are patients that are not being represented or in the conversation. And we are the umbrella, as we like to say. We are the ones that, represents, every area of the industry that needs attention and that needs to make sure that there's fair policy and legislation. I think that there are a lot of patients that don't get adequate access across multiple states, especially when you think of states as large as New York and not having enough dispensaries that can service all of the patients. I am a canna mom and a caregiver who has a very young child that I utilize cannabis for that has greatly improved her quality of life. So there needs to be representation for pediatric patients as well. Before cannabis, I was developing disruptive technologies in the consumer electronics and gaming tech space overall. So I want to bring that into cannabis as well when it comes to opportunities for people of color, because in the traditional sense, in the technological sector, we're not given the same opportunities. And I think that's also an area where we can bring those things to the industry to make it more compliance, and from a regulatory standard, being able to monitor the market in a way to make sure that people are safe and that businesses are able to be set up to be successful and not to fail.
Thank you so much for that. So we're gonna go into just a bit of questions, because this is recorded, and one thing I want is to have that information stored so then people can come back to the video and get the answers that they need. Jessica, what are some of the things guys that are coming from the street who want to get into the legal market, what are some of the things basic they should prepare themselves with?
Sure. So the basic thing that everybody's going to need is you're going to need an LLC or a corporation, right, to be able to apply for one of these licenses. One, you need it. Two, it also protects you against any sort of personal liability. You will need that. It seems that, we don't have regulations, just yet that speak exactly to the application requirements. We only have the statute. But if it's going to mirror a lot what we've seen in other states, you're going to need really 4 buckets in sort of a way to simplify everything. So the first bucket is capital, right? These applications are heavy lifts, regardless of whether or not they're competitive, non-competitive, unless it's like Oklahoma, where they're just giving them out like candy. It's still a very heavy lift. So you're going to need professionals, right? Lawyers, accountants, CPAs, maybe consultants, maybe some writers. So think about, the financial commitment, that you can make to it, right? New York has come out and said that they're going to, prepare this $1 million, fund. But one of my issues specifically with this fund is that it's going to come after the fact, because it's going to be funded by cannabis tax revenue. So once again, it's not equity day one. This is like, it could be like equity day, like, year 3 until this fund is actually up and running. So one of the things that we really wanted to advocate for was to make sure that these funds are going to be available before applications are actually released, because they are very cost intensive, right? You may be looking anywhere from around 100 to 150,000. At least that's what we've seen in more highly regulated, highly competitive states. So 1, your financials; 2, your team, which is what I discussed. And I always emphasize to everybody, please, for the love of God, do your due diligence on your team members, whether or not they're going to be your owners, they're going to be principals, they're going to be consultants, employees, professional services. You need to make sure that you have a team. This isn't something that you can really do as a one-person team. You're going to need a line of folks that you trust, a line of professionals as well that you can look to help navigate these really murky, complex compliance waters. The next thing that you're going to need is, most of the time they are requiring site control. New York, I would be very surprised if they weren't requiring site control. So that's going to come in 2 forms. You're going to need property, and you're going to need proof of local support from the municipalities. But New York has done a really awesome thing, which is they are requiring every single municipality to register with the Office of Cannabis Management, whether or not they're opting in or out, and what exactly are those laws. Without that, it can be very difficult to discern which municipalities and towns and boroughs are actually opting in or opting out. And the last thing is your intellectual property. You want to make sure that you have your brand name protected. You want to make sure that if you're bringing any trade secrets to the table, that those are protected. You want to make sure that anything that you are manifesting, any sort of ownership, that is protected before you're putting in the application, so that once your application is in, and if you get a license, there's no question as to who owns what. So breaking that down, 4 buckets: finances, team, location, intellectual property.
Awesome. Wow. Okay.
And Francis, I think it's dope. Now that she spoke about, like, I don't know if you're follow up, because I think it, like, even with the same panelists, you have individuals who have a 4-year start already into developing teams, and I think it'd be dope to hear more around like Happy Monkey and some of the individuals who have start developing teams. Who My apologies. Who are already developing teams, and what does that look like? What does that entail? What was the process like? What's their vetting process? Because we also have to consider, even though somebody's passionate about something, does this make sense as well? I think is also always important, and developing a vetting process that also protects the company is extremely important.
Yeah, let's segue into that with Vlad, and then I want to speak on the other side of that too with Tucky, because he has an interesting angle being from the other side of the country. So Vlad, tell us about your process and how you've already started that process years in, and information that can help those coming up before you or after you.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Vladimir Bautista, co-founder, CEO of Happy Monkey. I'm first generation Dominican from Harlem, Sugar Hill, 139th from Broadway, and I'm really happy to be here because Ramon mentioned a lot about how we got started on this journey. I've been in the legacy market for 24 years in New York, previously from Happy Monkey, and then been smoking cannabis for 27 years. And what the last 4 years has done for us, because we already knew the culture, we already knew cannabis, we already knew the community, we already kind of had all that figured out. But the last 4 years has been a crash course on all the other things. It was like, even though I had all this experience in cannabis, it was like being a freshman student, because as Jessica mentioned earlier, had to learn about compliance, regulations, corporate structure, trademark. And basically the last 4 years, that's what me, Ramon, and the rest of the organization have been doing, how to put a team together where there's a CEO, creative director, COO, and etc. down the line. It was really a learning experience. Even though I have all these years in cannabis, we had to relearn everything, because as Jessica said, in legal cannabis is totally different. And we had to basically, really, you know, seek mentorship from people that had been doing this before. You know, at the time when me and Ramon came in, there wasn't much happening in New York. So we learned a lot from our West Coast friends and what they did right and what they did wrong, and, you know, what lawyers to use. Making sure that you don't sign on to the wrong investors, which can really be detrimental to you. Make sure that everybody that you work with aligns with your values, because as we all know, you know, everything is fine and dandy, and, you know, and everybody sings kumbaya, but when the money comes around, things get funny. So as Jessica said, you know, you really have to be with some people that understand that this is like a long, dreadful process, and nothing moves fast like it did on the block or in the streets. Everything you do is for like projecting a year, 2 years, 5 years. So having a transition our mentality from instant gratification in the legacy market to being like, we have to invest, we have to work without seeing any money to hopefully see it in the years to come, was a really, really big change of mindset to be able to adapt to that mentality. So I think that that's going to be very important, to seek mentorship, really understand, really go to these conferences, really get next to people like us that have done this before, because it's really complex. The information is not accessible out there. The only way you really find out is showing up to things like this and conferences. So that's just like a baseline rough draft of like, you know, what you have to do. It's way more complex than that, but I don't want to complicate things. I'm just trying to give you the simple mentality you have to have before you decide to take this seriously.
Thank you, Vlad. I appreciate those words.
Let me ask a probing question real quick, Francisco, because I think Vlad raises a very important point, which is always about when creating a company, right? One of the most important areas is always the investor, right? Understanding who's investing in your company. What does it mean? What does a loan that might be transition to partial ownership mean? You know, what is the buyback, right? Because I feel like people don't understand when we talk about, and that's what I love about just having conversations with Ramon and Vlad, is their insight goes beyond just, yo, bro, this is how you do it. But bro, this is how you also fuck up. You feel me? And this is also how you maintain ownership, which is always the goal. The goal is always to maintain ownership and limit, you know what I'm saying, investors coming in to take control of your company. Because once a certain percentage is reached, you lose control of your, well, you can't call it a baby, right? Because we have to be clear also. When you transition to a corporation, you have to understand you become an overseer. This is not your baby. This is an entity at this point. You know, that even a corporation has the same rights as a human being sometimes. You feel me? So we have to be very clear on that. And Vlad, what would you say is, I know values is important, but what else do you look for on paper when an investor says, yo, I got the same values you got, but I got $300,000 I want to put on the table?
Well, you have to, you know, get a great lawyer, like Jessica said. And like I said, you know, these companies and these processes is like a long-term thing. Nothing happens overnight in cannabis. So you have to also tell yourself, like, is this a person that really wants to see this company grow, or do they just want to like really just milk it and pillage it and just add it to the deck of companies that they just put on a shelf and it's a write-off, you know? So you really gotta like really vet the people that you're getting in business with, because, you know, once you sign on a dotted line with the wrong person, it's really hard to get out, you know? So all money's not good money. And sometimes if you can scrape up money between family, friends, and etc., that might be a better route. It might take longer, but as much as outside money as you can avoid taking from people that do not understand your culture, your dream, and your vision, I would recommend that route.
And I just kind of want to piggyback off of, you know, what Vlad said. So Vlad hit it on the nose that not all money is good money. And I really, You know, he's not talking in theory right now. He's not talking about hypotheticals. This is real life. It happens. And the amount of bad contracts that I have seen come across my desk has been incredible in the worst way possible. And so it's really important, you know, that when you are going out there and you're trying to find that these funds, that one, yes, values are important, but you have to also make sure that you do have a professional who's guiding you through a lot of these contracts. I've seen a lot of deals fall through simply because the other side didn't want the party who they're trying to enter into a contract with to have a lawyer review it. They will say, hey, you have 2 days to sign this or it's done. And a lot of people will sign it. I've seen it happen. But those deadlines are arbitrary. They are not real. They are meant to pressure you into signing a document that is unilateral and one-sided. So it is really important that you do your due diligence, because if you are Black, if you are Latino, if you are Indigenous, if you are a social equity applicant and you meet those definitions, these companies are going to come and look for you. They're going to find you because they're going to want that sort of either priority or extra points on the application. You are exactly who they are looking for. And so they're going to partner up with you. And, you know, New Jersey has done a really good job of putting up guardrails in terms of contractual basis. Like this, we haven't seen this in any other state, but New Jersey's Cannabis Commission is getting involved in the contracting process and the business transactional process, specifically because advocates such as myself has raised this issue that you can place all of these great things in the laws and regulations, but in real life, the application is very different. And if there are not these guardrails in place to protect against predatory practices, Black, Latino, Indigenous, and anybody who qualifies as a social equity applicant is always going to come in at a disadvantage. So it is really important that you understand that you do bring something to the table, that you understand what it is that you're worth, and that you start this process as soon as possible so that you're not in a pinch for money or you're in a pinch for real estate where you're just going to have to grab what you can, because these contracts are really difficult to get out of.
Well, that was incredibly insightful. Jessica, thank you. Mr. Blunt, can you please let us know what is it like on your side?
What's going on, everybody? Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right, cool. So everything they said is 100,000,000% correct. In the 4 years, almost 4 years I've owned a business in the cannabis side, on the legal side, I've seen everything you could possibly imagine, from a bad partnership to shady business practices to the city and, you know, not providing any guidance, or the guidance that they were providing, they didn't know anything because they weren't in cannabis. So, you know, like I've been through all of that just in the 3-4 years I've been in business. I actually have been saying, and will continue to say, it was easier for me to trap than it is when I'm dealing with this business. And it's not because of the business. I'm a businessman. I know about running businesses. I've had 2 or 3. It's just what I'm dealing with on the tax side and just all the nonsense. When I was on the streets, all I had to worry about was having a pistol. I got to have, you know, doors that are like built like, y'all should see my store. It's like a vault. It's built like a bank now. It's not the vibe I'm going for, but I got to have all that because they made it so comfortable to rob us. It's just all kind of shit we're going through. But everything they said is what's really going on. The problem is, and the main thing that people need in this space, is education and funding. And I don't mean like book education. I mean like actual education. And like they said, knowing how to read a contract. Let me give you a case in point. So I met my partner, my original partner, September of 2017 via a phone call from Mike Marshall, the voice of I Got 5 on. He said, "Hey, Tucky, you ever caught a weed case before? I know some sisters out of Atlanta, mom and daughter team. They then did some stuff in Denver. They're going to Oakland. They know about an equity program where you got to caught a case to qualify." I look it up. It's legit. I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. I meet these 2 people September of 17. We applied for the license December of 17. We won the license via the lottery January of 18. There's no fucking way I knew them. You understand what I'm saying? But we knew each other in them 90 days. We won the license. We started building. I do not recommend that for nobody. But the only thing is, the way the stuff move with these licenses, when you get them, you have to find a location in a certain amount of time, or they're going to give your license to somebody else. So that puts you under the fire to find a location. Now, when you find this location, it may not even be built out. So you have to spend money, pay rent, all this type of stuff to have it built out. Where's this money coming from? So these cities and counties put you in a bad spot out the gate, especially if you're social equity, because you don't have no money. Qualifications is being poor. One of the qualifications is to be poor. So you gave poor people $1 billion license with no money, no grants. In California's case, like when I got my license, there was no grants, there was no loans. I wouldn't have took a loan no way, but there was no grants, no loans, no nothing. We had a technical assistance program, but the technical assisters were just regular regular attorneys. They weren't cannabis attorneys. They didn't even know about weed, never smoked weed, never sold weed, didn't know shit. So you imagine getting a license in that space and then going out into the world trying to be able to find somebody to partner with. It's like sharks seeing blood. And they are going to come after you. They are going to particularly, they want to do a lot of incubation deals. My deal was never incubated. I never had any kind of incubation structure or none of that. I took a loan from a private company that gave me a loan. There was no investor. They didn't own any part of my business. I was very clear on that only because I've owned businesses before. But 99% of people that's coming back into this space that's from the streets and coming back, they don't know none of that. So they're going to see you dangle 30, 40, 50,000 in front of them. They're going to take that. Like she just said, we got to know the value in our licenses. You know what I'm saying? And how can we know the value in it? We just got it. You know what I'm saying? But with the shit we going through in Cali, to be able to talk about it and share, like you said, sharing the fuck ups and the goods and the bads, that's where I come in. And I'm real big on making sure I tell everything that's going on, because it's a lot of people that's under the veil that believe I can just go and open a dispensary and start growing weed and make millions and millions of dollars instantly. Nah. But if you want to come in, you got 3 to 5 million to completely burn. You got 3 to 5 years to not make any money at all and be okay with that. Then yeah, come on in. But that's not what people are painting that picture. They're painting the picture that we just living it up. No, we're not, because they've made it to where you can't live it up. You know what I'm saying? We're overtaxed and underprotected. So to be able to just, be a part of y'all group to try to help craft shit before they pin it, because when they pin it, it's over. Once it's pinned, you can't change it. There's no like, oh, we go back, we're gonna change it because we didn't. No. This is America. Once it's pinned, it's pinned. So if they can get on shit before it's happening and actually have people listening to the people that's going through it, so they can make the shit the right way, or at least as right as they can, it'll be a whole lot easier transition. Because what I'm going through right now, if I'm still going through this in 3 years, I'm selling my license. There's no reason for me to keep it. I won't make any money.
Wow. Oh, I got a probing question for Tuck, Francisco. So Tuck, I'm sorry, let me get you. Tucky. So my question is more around, I think you said something that's extremely important, right? When it comes to the now we're talking about forming the business, right? What do I need to be, like Jessica stated previously, what are some of the buckets that I need, especially again, right? One of the biggest impediments to being able to get a business up and running, especially when you're transitioning from markets, is money, right? And I want to hone in with Happy Monkey. Now with you, part of the loan process, right? What were some of the stipulations that you agreed to when you took the loan to be able to strengthen your, to get the money to build out the business, etc.?
All right. So what happened was, this is crazy how shit be. So when we won the license, as soon as we won the license, we were the only 2 people that won a license that was actually there that day. 4 licenses were won, but we're the only person that was in the building. So I got swarmed with everybody trying to, hey, take my card. This one particular guy, Asian guy, gave me a folder, said Grizzly Peak Farms. I didn't think nothing of it, but it was a folder. I took all those cards and stuffed them in there. Bam. That folder laid on the side of my bed for like 2 months. We was going through meeting different people. The technical assistant was connecting us to different rental properties that had liens on them, all kind of shit. So I kept telling my partners again, I didn't know them. They was from Atlanta. They didn't know the value of the location. The location was on 66 and Coliseum Way in East Oakland, California. That location was directly across the street from the Oakland Coliseum. That location was also 13 blocks from where I caught my case. So I knew the significance of that spot. I had to make sure that they understood it. Long story short, we went there, met that same Asian guy. And the first thing he said was, I need half ownership. I'm like, no. So what they had at that location was a grow operation and a retail storefront. It used to be a Napa Auto Parts. They tried to get a license on the non-equity side. They didn't get it. So when we came in, it's like, well, shit, you got this storage space that you was already going to build. Why would you get rid of it? Let us pay you rent. You know what I'm saying? Let us buy your flour and then let us give you some money for being our management team, and you do hiring and firing, because they already had a corporate structure within them. My current partner now, is a big real estate agent, and his partner, the Asian guy, is a master grower. So they already had money. They already had, like, HR departments, et cetera, et cetera. They had marketing departments. So it was a good fit. The way we got our contract to be done without any ownership was by giving them normal, I don't know what it is out there, but normal commercial rates in Oakland and Bay Area where we're at is anywhere from 50 cents to $1.25 a square foot for the spaces. We agreed to pay them $4 a square foot. We also agreed to, like I said, allow them to be our management partner, which would deal with the hiring, the firing, all the HR stuff. That'll be on them. They would get a percentage of 3, 4, 5% over the 3 years, depending on certain number plateaus. It was all structured based on numbers. And then we also had a clause that if they was fucking up, we could get rid of y'all. And then we agreed to we didn't agree to a set amount, we agreed to buy flower from them. Like, why wouldn't you? They have a fucking grow out attached to the building. So it was worked. It was like vertically integrated, but with 2 different companies. You know what I'm saying? So it worked. By us agreeing to do all those extra things, they agreed to not get ownership. They was like, what, fuck it, we're making this much money. What do we need ownership in this? Like, what is the real point of really us owning this? We want to grow weed. We really don't want to have a store. We might as well just rent it out to them. And that's how we structured it.
Right. And as far as the loan that you said you guys took, that wasn't part of the, because I'm always interested in the fine print, right? Them stipulations, one of the interesting things that some of the young men who are interested in developing these type of corporations out here, they're telling me that they'll give you $1 million, but you got 2 years to pay up, which is extremely unrealistic if you understand the projections and right. The time plan you would need to do to be able to get just the cash flow to be able to sustain $1 million trend like payback. But
so what we did with ours,
they get 30% if they don't get paid $1 million in 2 years. So talk to me about
we didn't do that. So luckily, originally when I first met my original team, we had some solid people, I thought. So we had a financial advisor who was a real big dude, had, he done a lot of stuff in real estate on my side. We had a cannabis attorney on my side. We had my previous partner who had done work in the cannabis space, and their mom was a paralegal in the cannabis space. So we had enough knowledge, along with my knowledge. I worked for the city of Oakland, Alameda County, 13, 14 years. I typed 90 words a minute, and I've been trapping since I was 16. And I always trapped at where I worked at. So I didn't come from just like, I wasn't just a dumb nigga. So it worked. You know what I'm saying? We was able to do what we had to do. So the loan, we just set up like a regular loan. Of course, they wanted 30% interest and this, that, and the other. We agreed to a 3-year term on whatever we could pay back. We would set it because at the end of the day, they gave us $450,000 for build out, and then they gave us $200,000 for startup capital. For flower, for product. So that $450,000 was supposed to be the build out. That was supposed to hire staff. That was supposed to hire, just do the security. That was supposed to get us up and running, ready to go. So $650,000 was my original take from them total. And the payback terms was 10%, like a regular loan. It wasn't no double or nothing like that. It was 10% because, again, they were getting all this other money from the business. They weren't concerned with like us paying it off at a certain time because they was going to be getting money in the business. So we had it set to where if we had to stay in our contract in the 3 years that we was in, we would have paid it off right at the end of the 3rd year. But we never got that far because my previous partner started stealing money. So
yikes. Okay. Wow. What a story.
Well, that's not even a story, Francisco. That's the type of consultants and people who have certain understandings, right, that you want to have in your team because they understand. For him, it might, at the moment, it was a loss, but mentally he gained an understanding and insight of a process that otherwise could have led him down a worse path in a few more years.
Domingo, let me tell you this. I literally just had lunch with somebody else in the space today. And I say this a lot. The shit that my previous partner, because we didn't even talk about that, but the shit that my previous partner did to me was a lesson. Like it was meant for me to learn that lesson. Like it made me, because the contract we signed was beautiful. I thought for me, it looked great, but it also looked great for her. It basically made it to where she couldn't be voted out. You know what I'm saying? I had to like beg her to get voted out. You understand what I'm saying? I couldn't, there was nothing legally I could do to make her leave. But once I found out she was stealing money and doing all this, that, and the other, open another dispensary in a whole other state, and I could prove it, she kind of like was like, all right, I gotta go. But along with that, come to find out, she wasn't paying vendors or taxes. So I had to eat the, well, I didn't have to, but I agreed to eat the debt in order to get all my IP. So now I own my IP. I'm 100% owner of my store. My current partner, Grizzly Peak Farms, who was my original lender, we're just 50% partners on the back end of sales. They don't have nothing to do with the license or anything. We have a straight, it's my store. You know what I'm saying? But the license is glued to that location because that's how Oakland made it. But like the shit that I'm going through, that I went through the bad partnership. Then I got robbed when George Floyd got murdered. They killed the whole entire store, was completely tore to shreds. Had to come back from that. And then I had to find a partner to re-partner with because I had 2.5 million in debt because all the money my previous partner stole. So it's been a lot. So to even be able to reopen and then get robbed again in November and still be open and still going through all this, still paying the overpriced and taxes. Like I just said it, like you guys, I learned the lesson, but I'm tired of learning lessons because the shit is bullshit. Like aside from all the robbery shit I'm going through, the overtaxation, like I was, 2019 was our best year. We brought in 5 million, a little over 5 million. I paid out 7.5 million. How do you do that, Fonzo? How do you do that, Tucky? Because I paid so much in taxes and 280E stuff and the security measures. Like I tell anybody all the time, y'all just try something else to do in the cannabis space. The best education I can give you is do not just come in here to grow and sell, especially in California. Now, if you do it somewhere else and they get it right out the gate and they give you money out the gate, $100,000 ain't shit. If you're gonna give somebody some money to do something in this space, we need at least 1.5 million just to even begin a conversation. But they're not gonna be, they're not gonna want to do that. But then we're gonna be stuck. You know, it's a fucked up situation, y'all. It definitely can be done better, but it's gonna take for people like us to be in these rooms to talk to them before they do it. Because the way Oakland did it, thanks for social equity. I appreciate it. I'm glad my Heavenly Father, I call him Yahweh. I'm glad Yahweh introduced me to those gypsies and they did that to me because now I own 100% of my license. But to be honest, 3 more years, I'm out of here. If it has not changed in California, I'm already working on franchising. But my Oakland store in my home base, in my backyard, in the same zip code that I called my case in, for me to say I want to close that is terrible. But I want to close it because it just there's no money to be made as long as they fucking us like they fucking us. So yeah.
I appreciate your bluntness. No pun intended. Safita, go ahead, love.
Yes, I just wanted to add to what Tucky was saying about other things, other options, other opportunities in the space. There is so much more to the cannabis industry than just opening a dispensary or even growing. Of course, we hear about the consumption lounge licenses, and then there's space for, event marketing, experiential marketing, technology. There's so many things that's needed in the industry to support the plant. And in order for the plant to be supported and protected, and for this industry to truly be sustainable, both economically and environmentally, we have to look at other ways, like the ancillary side of things, to be able to create opportunities in the space. No one's even paying attention to the fact that you can get a hemp license right now. So you don't have to just wait or focus on just one side of the industry. And I think that that's something that also needs to be emphasized in the education, because there's so many pieces in the industry that we still don't have yet. And everybody's only focusing on one side, and their attention is diverted to just one area of the and things that could be done now. And even when we think about, legacy owners and operators and all the research that they have done and all the knowledge and information that they have has to be passed down to someone. So why not set up the right infrastructure so that there can be clinical research study programs, and that there can be partnerships with universities? Like the strategic partnerships are going to be important, especially when we think about what's needed, as Jessica was stating, having the right team. Sometimes they may not have that. So if we set up the right infrastructure to where we can pair them with people almost like an incubator program. That would be really important, because then it's going to give them the resources that they need. They need more than funding. They're going to need the right resources to help with the structure. So I think that's something that needs to be done, and that can help alleviate some of these predatory practices that are going on within the industry, because there also needs to be policy put in place to prevent those predatory practices from happening and limit that, so that businesses are not set up to fail. Because I feel like that's exactly what's happening. They're setting them up to fail, and then when they do, it's like, well, we did give you the license, what you did with it or what didn't happen is not on us, but it is, because you set it up to where they got the license, but you had nothing else in place that would help them to be successful and sustainable overall. So definitely looking at every side of the industry and how we can bring legacy into the multiple opportunities that are there that they can take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. I want to kind of segue from what you were saying about, giving them the resources and introducing someone here from the Washington Heights Inwood Development Corporation. Her name is Lacey. Am I saying that right?
Lacey, yeah. Hi,
Lacey
everyone.
Mendez. Yeah, she is. I just want to introduce you before you get into the
Sure.
presentation. We'll do the presentation a little later, but I just want folks on the call to know that she's going to be here to kind of offer how to show you how to do a business plan, depending on whichever business you want to do, whether it be in cannabis or not. Those corporations, these organizations are in the community, ready to assist. So I just wanted to introduce Ms. Mendez. And okay, so Safida, can you introduce Amir for us, please?
Yes, I most definitely can. Everyone here, we have Amir. Amir is amazing, not just because he's a close friend and brother, but Amir also has written a book called The Indigenous History of Hemp. I think if I have that title correct. And he has a lot of insight and information on that side of things, as well as just a wealth of information in how to set up properly according to current laws, and just ways to be able to protect yourself outside of what is traditionally there already, such as like setting up nonprofit organizations and setting up your trust and all those different things. And that's just kind of a condensed version. So I would love for Amir to speak from that point.
Can everybody hear me?
Can you get louder?
Amir, we can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. Peace. OCO, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well this evening. My name is Chief Minister Amir Khalif El Bey. I am the founder of the Indigenous Hemp Education Association, which is a 501(d) educational tribal nonprofit ministry. We operate out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we focus on, like Safida eloquently put, on assisting people in understanding there's two sides to every game. There's a public side and there's a private side. So we help people understand how to operate in this space based upon our skin color, our status, us being able to be in a position to utilize the nonprofit ministry and the 501 and the 508 designation to be tax exempt, to do everything up under research and development. All right. Now in 2016, a brother named Robert Moore was granted a federal exemption from the DEA because he was violated up under the 2014 Farm Bill. They thought that it was THC and it was actually CBD. So they violated him, destroyed his product. He ended up going to the federal, taking them to the federal court, because your remedy is always in federal court. It's never in the local jurisdiction. You go to federal court and take him to federal court and win. And instead of getting money from the DEA, he was able to get an exemption to be able to charter to certain ministries for research and development. So if you wanted more information on that, you can just Google DEA 885A1. It'll tell you everything that the exemption will be able to, you can do under the exemption. So we show people how to operate up under this federal exemption because it's easier. We've been in this game, you know, like I said, since 2014. I've been talking to all of these state senators. Safita will tell you, you know, we've been going around trying to inform and educate, you know, the people who are in charge, so-called in charge of making these decisions, and they're not educated at all, you know. So us trying to relate our problems to people who don't even understand it, you know, it's just senseless. I always tell, you know, Safita, like, we gotta eliminate the middleman. We always gotta find out who's at the top of the pyramid and go talk to them. So that's what I figure out how to do. You know, I utilize my knowledge and my skills to be able to navigate on the private side rather than the public side, because we already know the public side is going to license you, they're going to tax you to death, you're going to have to jump through all this red tape, you know, and all of these hurdles that you're going to have to climb, and yet it's still federally illegal. You know what I'm saying? So I understood that, like I said, I had to go and talk to the top, get at the top of the pyramid, get my federal exemption first, and then work down. So now I can deal in local jurisdictions because I have a federal exemption. I could be able to, you know, actually have a case to be able to transport across state lines or to be able to bank legally or lawfully, you know. So it's just understanding that this is a game. Everything is a game. It's just like Mario Brothers, Call of Duty, any other thing, chess, anything that we grew up playing. Everything is understanding how to play the game, reading the rules to that game first, and then playing it to the best of your ability, you know, to get the game, you know, what you plan to gain in this industry. So we just secured a research and development facility here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're getting ready to start doing our own clinical trials and research on specific strains and psilocybin as well, because I have a lot of research on psilocybin that a lot of people are coming out with now. But it's just all about understanding that it's all about education. You know, our motto is we educate, you decide. You know, that's why we started We Educate University, which is my online university, which we've had 3 successful grow classes on the university, and we also had 2 successful IHEA 101 classes, which is a class based upon my book that I have, The Indigenous History of Hemp. So not to keep too much time going, I know other people have to introduce themselves and present as well, but it's just a little bit about, you know, what I do. Like I say, I understand estate trust setup, all of that stuff to help secure us. You know, like I tell people, you have to go out here and put your armor on when you go out here and deal in the matrix. So we just show you how to put different armor on and have different weapons when you're dealing out here in this matrix.
Thank you, Amir. We appreciate that. Domingo, you got anything?
My biggest thing was around, and I find it very interesting, right? Because remember, people usually think about LLCs. People usually think about other incorporations, but there's actually the availability. I found it very interesting that you were able to mix in the monastery and the 501. You know, because it plays a huge role, right? It sometimes, if you don't have the structure, it could complicate it more. Like, it makes it a bit more complex, right? So, like, for instance, the difference between a 501c3 and a 501c6, right? Which one allows you to like engage in politics, while the other one limits you to certain levels of advocacy, right? But one is tax deductible, while I don't want to get into the whole like
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Able to touch on the trust, right? Because there is structures that people could put in place. A trust could help finance businesses for small, like let's say a small particular group of people of color, right? Investors that come together. So if you could speak a bit on your past experience with trust, formation of trust. What is a trust? What does it look like? And how could it support the growth of a emerging industry?
Okay, well, let me I always use the visualization of a house when I talk about trust. Of course, all business starts and ends with trust. Okay, I always use that particular quote because that's in every relationship. If you don't have trust, you don't have anything. So if you think of a trust as your house, we set up individual cars or individual assets, liabilities, or companies to go out here and iterate and operate through the matrix in. So you have your LLC car, you'll have your nonprofit car, you'll have a charity car, you'll have an S Corp car, you know, and your regular LLC. You'll all these send these out, and then these cars always come back to the house because the house is the asset, the house is the trust. So you bring your businesses put them out in the universe, bring them all the way back to the house at the end of the day or the end of the year, and store them in your house, which is your trust. All right, trust is just a protection asset tool that is lawful to be used, and you don't have to go through a probate court to be able to utilize. So it gives you more power to be able to operate through a trust versus a will. All right, so it's an ultimate form of protection, and it's a non-taxable form of protection that people can use and set up as well. So one movie that is I always tell people to watch in reference to trust is a movie called The Laundromat. It's on Netflix. It is an excellent movie that'll help you understand what trusts are and how they operate. Everything starts with a trust. So if you think about police departments, if you think about anything with a charter, it had to come from a trust first. And that trust had to produce a charter for it to have the same kind of benefits or the same kind of exemptions and powers. So Sam Walton has a trust. You know, his public company is Walmart. His private company is Sam's Club. All right. You have to be a member to be a member of Sam's Club. Anybody could be utilize Walmart as a public company. All right. So this trust is the one that controls these two companies. So a trust is very important in business, especially if you plan to have any assets. You want to house all of your assets, tangible assets in your trust, whether it be monetary, whether it be land, you know, and this is why it's important to set up these different entities because, you know, you can have donations to your nonprofit, donations to your charity, whether that be land, cars, money, you know. There's a lot of different ways that you can utilize the business structure if you have everything in place. So this is what we just do. We just show you how to set up a trust, and then 4 of your businesses that you can just utilize as options with. So I just like giving people options. It's all about options. I don't like to be put into a box. It's all about options with me.
Why I try to like indirectly talk about the trust, because people forget these structures exist and are being utilized by Fortune 500 companies, and they're not this out of this world. Like, it's possible if you organize yourself, if you structure yourself in a way where, one, like, you're able to like have business structures that could feed into it, but 2, you have the structure to also be to be able to, like you said, right, to have the house and have the cars just drive up on it. You know?
Everything is protection. So, you know,
yeah,
if you want to have, and we want to be protected, have your assets protected, you want to have a structured house. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's about. And this is a structured trust is what it's about. So, no, you have trust fund babies. There's different types of trust. You have land trust, you have REIT trust, real estate investment trust. You know, you have different types of trust.
Too into it right now because we don't want to like bombard people with all these different
right. I'm in professor mode. My bad.
Yeah, and we'll send you an invitation. I'll talk to Francisco so you could come and check out a conversation we're having the 21st up here in Washington Heights, uptown area, regarding that, just being able to understand how to actually put this rhetoric into action now. So a lot of us are here in the Zoom like, yo, but these people talking about all these crazy things, right?
And I don't want to reiterate, Francisco, that only 2% of the world only deals in trust. So no matter how much money you have, it's only 2% of the world deals in trust. And that's what my banker told me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want people to feel bad about, man, why would I never taught this in school. I never heard this information. None of us have. You know what I'm saying? This is elite information, what we call ADEP knowledge, that only some people, sacred knowledge, not secret, it's sacred. You know what I'm saying? And that's how some people want to keep it. I'm just in a position where I want to educate my people on it.
Yeah, thank you so much though, because it was very insightful in just in that short span and explanation of it. Francisco, so what do you want to do now? Because I think we've given people this overview glimpse of not only in corporations, but I think Jessica stated it correctly, the various buckets, right? Exposing yourself to understanding that it's not this singular road to creating a business, right? You have to take into consideration certain aspects and see how you're able to maneuver and understand that this is not something that you could do by yourself, and the importance of a team and the importance of patience, right? This is not something where somebody could pressure you to be like, hey, look, I'm throwing money at you. There's always speculation. There's always some sort of stipulation behind it, right? Nobody is going to give you money for free just because you have good intentions and you're passionate about what you're about, right? Sharks consider that blood, easy prey, you know? So is there anything else you want to add to it?
Yeah, Jessica, I have a question for you. Protecting your IP, if you can speak on that.
Sure. So intellectual property tends to be like the forgotten stepchild of the legal world, where a lot of people believe that because it's an intangible asset as opposed to a tangible asset, that it's not as important. But because of the fact that it is intangible, meaning you can't hold it, it is something that just exists out there, it makes it that much more important. So when I'm talking about IP, which is actually how I got into the cannabis industry, it has 4 different buckets under the umbrella of intellectual property. So you're looking at your trademark, which can be, name, symbol, number, design, but it's what represents your brand. It's the cornerstone of your brand, and it's the consumer shortcut. It's a differentiation of what your company is versus what somebody else is, right? So you can look at the Nike logo, you can look at the, McDonald's arches, the Happy Monkey brand, right? They got the monkey, they have the name. That is considered a trademark, which is extremely important. The reason why it's important is because right now you can't transport cannabis plants across state lines, right? You cannot say, I'm going to send, a couple of pounds over to Jersey and then back to New York. That is still federally legal. The moment you cross state lines, you target in federal interference, but your intellectual property can cross state lines. So a lot of companies that, you're seeing, for example, if you're seeing like the cookies brand, right? It's not necessarily they have, a cookies store in every single one, but they license out their intellectual property. They make money off of that. And so your intellectual property is really important in that aspect. New Jersey did this very strange thing where they're not allowing any businesses to operate as any doing business as or any alternative names. You have to do the business under the same name that's on your New Jersey business registration certificate. And the reason that they're doing that is because a lot of MSOs were coming in, creating all these various shell companies, operating under these different types of names, making it very difficult to discern who actually owns these licenses. So we alerted New Jersey that. New Jersey said, okay, then you have to operate at the same name that you register with the state. But now that also makes it that much more important for those who are operating under that name to make sure that they protect that name. And I know a lot of folks, sometimes they say, oh, well, I own the LLC, I own the domain name, I own the social media name. none of that equates to trademark use. If you have a trademark, the best way that you can protect it is to get a federally trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So if you go on and you're like, well, I did a search on my state website and the LLC name is available, that still doesn't mean that that trademark is up for grabs. Somebody else could be using it across state lines and you just may not know about it. And now you've committed trademark infringement. So it's important that you protect that, and for example, we're looking at like the Happy Monkey brand, right? They've created something out of that went from a consumption lounge to magazines, to events, to podcasts, to all of this, but it carries a lot of weight because they've contributed so much to that brand, but they've also protected it as well, and they've enforced it, which is really important. The other one is for copyright protection. It's still important, but that's when you're looking at photographs, you're looking at websites, you're looking at any sort of text that you put forth. Copyright protection could be pretty important as well. The other one is patents. I'm not a patent attorney, so I'm not going to speak too much on it, right? But if you come up with an invention or something like that, that's where a patent comes into place. But one of them that is really important is trade secrets. And a lot of people don't talk about trade secrets a lot, but it's really important in the cannabis space because your customer list, your vendor list, your types of genetics, the way, your standard operating procedures, those could all be considered trade secrets if one, they are kept confidential, and two, they provide you with a competitive edge in the marketplace. It could literally be any piece of information as long as it reaches those two buckets. The most famous trade secret being the Coca-Cola recipe. Nobody knows it. It is in a vault. They hide it. It's been able to maintain a trade secret because they've kept it confidential. It has given them a competitive advantage in the marketplace. They could have patented if they wanted to, but then that patent would have expired like 30 years ago and it would have been public information. So you need to understand, what type of IP you own and what you are contributing to your company. So, let's say, for example, you're entering into a business, with a friend, but you came up with the trademark. Maybe you want to own it and license it over to the company instead of the company owning it, right? I have some clients who say, I have come up with this trademark. I have invested in it. I've put a lot of money and energy and time and goodwill into this mark that when investors are going to come and invest into my company, I don't want them to have ownership over the trademark. I want to be able to control how it's used. So the client will own it individually and then they will license it out to the company. But some investors will say, not so fast. I also want to own part of that trademark. So you're going to need to assign it now to the company. So it really could depend, but it's really extremely important because when you are getting into these contracts, right now, when you first start a business, everybody's friends. The moment that shit hits the fan, the moment that money comes in, trust me when I tell you, these relationships start to dissolve very quickly. I have witnessed many, many, many company divorces. They happen all the time. So you need to make sure that you are papering everything, right? So when you're entering into a transaction, you're starting a company with friends, with family members, whatever it may be, you need to make sure that there's a paper trail. One, so that you're guided exactly what to do if something goes wrong, but two, to also protect the integrity of your relationship with that person. Because if you're entering into a business transaction and it's your best friend and something's not going right, you can point to the piece of paper and say, well, we agreed that this is how we were going to resolve this issue. This is how we have to resolve it. If you don't have that in the first place, it becomes a he said, she said game. And that's how all of this, dissolves. And that can be really expensive. It can be really expensive, as Tucky was describing, to get out of these business relationships. So you need to make sure that you own what you own, decide how you either want to assign it or license it to the company, but take inventory of everything that you've done up until that point and ensure that that value is reflected on the cap table when you're forming a company.
Wow.
That's a good question, Francisco. And there's this concept going around right now because you mentioned I believe the term you used was MGOs. What is it called? MSOs, right? Antitrust laws and the importance of being able to prevent these corporations from truly just.
Oh, I think he got kicked out.
Yeah, he left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the, I think that this is probably one of the most insightful meetings we've had on cannabis. And mind you, we've had Tremaine Wright, and she broke all the rules of what things are going to look like, and that was incredibly insightful. But this, what I considered, straight to the gut conversation is the kind of stuff that our people need. And some of our people probably receive information better that way. And before we wrap this up, I just want to thank each and every one of you guys for giving me your time, giving us your time and the information, because that's what we do this for, is to get this information and send it out to our community members. I want to open it up to any attendees who have any questions. Please feel free to ask our panelists of experts and activists and beautiful Black and brown people. Please feel free to raise your hand, or and anyone on the board as well, or any other panelists who have questions for other panelists.
I just want to say thanks for having me and allowing people like us to actually have opportunity to speak before stuff is done. I apologize. Well, I ain't gonna apologize, but I'm one of the realest people that you go meet. Like, I really like the stuff y'all hear in my voice is coming from selling cannabis since 1996 and actually being able to sell it legally. The way the stuff is going now, won't none of us have a cannabis industry to sell in if they keep going this way. So I'm thanking y'all for having this space for us to come talk at. Thank you, Safita, for inviting me.
I appreciate you, Tucky, because you really gave us a lot to feed off of. And before I continue, I would just want to give a quick shout out to our board chair, our presidente, Eliasal Bueno. He always stops by and listens in, and I just want to introduce him to all of our beautiful panelists here. Eliasal, you have something to say, or you cool?
No, man, we're cool. As you said, very, very rarely we get to have as many people that historically have, and I continue to just hammer that point down. It's just that we needed to have this voice. Thank you, Francisco and Domingo, both, for bringing the truth to the community. We haven't had these kind of conversations for years, for as long as I've been around. So I couldn't thank you enough. And to all the panelists and all the people that participated, just thank you for making this happen. I guess change really is here.
Thank you, Alyssa. I appreciate those words, man. Andrew, please go ahead.
I appreciate it. I'm going to be real quick. How do we get the real estate property thing off of an application for licenses, including provisional licenses? So as we know, in many states, you have to have a address or a business address, and you have to pay rent. How do we get that off with the policy, and then how do we build that in? I'm gonna stop. And thank you so much for the panelists. This has been absolutely amazing.
Does anybody want to take that on?
So if I can understand your question, Andrew, it's how do we stop having states require site control prior to an application?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And then mandate that to be the norm.
Gotcha. That's a tough one. And I will say that real estate is huge barrier to entry. To have to lock down, a property that's going to be subject to what we call the green tax, which means all these landlords understand that what they're sitting on is now become much more valuable than before. Property is a huge issue. And I think, Andrew, you brought up, provisional licenses, right? Like New Jersey's doing, where they have conditional licenses, where you put in part one of the application, but you don't need to show site control. And then you sort of get this kind of provisional license-esque type thing. And then you have 120 days to actually find, site control. And one of the concerns that we're having over here in New Jersey is, what if you can't find it within those 120 days because you need to get zoning approval, you need to get proof of local support, and you need to enter into some sort of agreement with a landlord showing that you're going to have final control over the property if you're awarded a license. One of the solutions that, that I have seen is trying to incentivize the municipalities to start assisting applicants with this, right? Whether it be through any sort of tax credits, whether it be through some sort of bonds, something of that. I've seen some of those ideas, pop up around. The only hurdle that I see to that is how do you wrangle a lot of these municipalities? When you're looking at states that are very densely populated, we have a lot of boroughs and townships and everything here. Jersey alone has 565 towns. But I think if we can incentivize them in some way through either additional tax revenue or something like that, or using some sort of, municipal bond avenue, for this real estate. Aside from that, I don't really have, sort of any ideas except for not requiring it and allowing the license holder to actually get the license, and then, have to perfect it within a specific amount of time. But if we look at pretty much, every other standard business, whether it be just opening up a store, somewhere, in order for you to get those zoning permits, you almost always need to have, property. But I think in the cannabis space, it's exasperated because of the fact that this process takes so long, on top of the fact that these landlords understand that they are also taking a bit of a risk. And because of that risk, they're adding very hefty fees on top.
Wow. Thank you, Jessica. Antonio, talk to me.
What's going on? I just wanted to thank Safita for sending me the invite. My name is Antonio Miller. I'm working on a project called Bud Swap. So social media is more like an ancillary business. We got a business license in Colorado and in California. The app's being developed by Appsketeers, who's located in Atlanta, Georgia. And essentially what this app is going to allow people to do is barter cannabis and CBD products with members in their community, as well as gift cannabis and CBD in exchange for goods and professional services. We've been in business for a couple of years now, and all the information and insight given here was just amazing. I appreciate y'all having me in this space. And yeah, guys, we're finishing up with the coding right now. We should be going into the App Store and the marketplace within 6 to 8 months. So thank y'all for having me here.
Wow, that's incredible, Mr. Miller. And what Antonio pretty much is showcasing is other types of businesses within the space where you don't even have to touch the flower at all. You don't have to deal with licensing, right, Antonio? Right. So,
well, we got the paperwork as far as the USPTO. I heard some knowledge on that. We got the intellectual property through them, patent pending, as well as we have the trademark through the USPTO for the mark for the company and the name of Bud Swap. And yes, sir. I mean, that's what we did. We paid for business licensing, but we don't need any other licensing.
Wow, incredible. Domingo, you still there?
Real quick, and it's not taxed as much. That's the key thing. Sorry, but that's the key thing, you guys. Yep. I'm cooking. That's the key thing. It's not taxed like touching the flower. So ancillary businesses can make money right away because you're not paying the overtaxation. You're not dealing with a lot of security measures that stores and growers have to deal with. So really, really look into ancillary because it's less barriers. You don't have to have a bigger location. You can do some of the ancillary stuff from your home. You know what I mean? So it's taxed so much different. So okay, bye.
Hey, I wanted to step in on that. No, thank you, Seth, for the invitation. I always love stepping into these spaces. I see my Happy Monkey family and everybody. I live in Denver, Colorado. My name is Manji Reverie. I'm a radio personality out here, and I kind of stepped into the marketing and media side of cannabis a little bit over a year ago. And I just kind of wanted to add on to this conversation, stating that it's a situation where you don't always have to necessarily be the person that's touching the flower or having to own the grow or go through all these rigorous processes that a lot of people will probably not have the funding for, and then feel discouraged that they can't be part of the industry. You know, I've listened to everybody speak tonight, and I'm so proud of just the rooms that we're sitting in, because, you know, we wouldn't be having these conversations a couple of years ago. So my role really I've taken on is kind of the documentation and the media and marketing side of it. A lot of these companies don't know how important something like branding is. You know, I heard that mentioned earlier. The branding of a brand is super important. Just like you said, cookies wouldn't be cookies if people didn't recognize it off bat. And sometimes it's not even our favorite flower, but we know that that's cookies. So it's just a lot of different parts of the industry. We're extremely excited to sit in the different rooms with people that do education, and there's so many different parts of the industry that your average person wouldn't even think to apply or try to fit into, basically. So there's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much for that. Wow, Denver, Colorado. Okay. And again, another option for our legacy guys who maybe want to transition into legal, but maybe they don't want to touch flower, or maybe they want to get a license and they want ancillary businesses as well. There's a lot of options here, and it's just, you know, arming our folks to what's coming. I don't know if you guys that are not from this area know, but like our licensing is going to start in February 2023. So it's imperative that we have these discussions now to get our folks ready from different angles, and then leave it up to them to decide, you know, what avenue works for them. So these conversations are important, and I'm going to wrap this up. Well, we have another question. Andrew, go ahead.
Isn't a little part of my language fucked up that you can't start home grow until June 2024 in New York? Is that still the law? 18 months after the first legal dispensary opens up, which would be December 20.
No, the date is February 2023. It was 18 months. It was 18. No, for licensing.
That's
For
dispensary.
home grow. I thought a home grow was, can you start home growing now?
No. It originally stated that it had to be 18 months after the first legal dispensary was opened, which was slated to be December. What is it now? 2023 of. So 18 months after that.
After February 2023.
Yeah.
So 18 months after that is when you can put your first seeds in the ground to legally home grow.
Wow. I didn't know that. Pilar, can you
But
speak on that?
I hate everyone. I mean, I'm not really familiar with the home grow. I mean, I really also think like how many people are going to be coming to my house to come check if I'm growing at home. Now, I believe though cultivation for folks for the dispensaries to have weed come 2023, because we can't cross state lines. So New York has to have, and even though it could be grown inside, but you know, if we want to have some outdoor flower, from my understanding, there may be a possibility for license, you know, a certain amount of licenses for growers, cultivators to be issued so that cultivation can begin in order to have flower for the dispensaries by the time they're applying for licenses of next year. I don't know exactly if that's to be true, which is what my point, you know, I think that it's definitely really important for us to really, we got to be doing a lot of things, which is why we're kind of a little behind, because we had to be having these conversations when we were having them before, so that right now we could keep the pressure on them on what we want the regulations to look at. But it's really challenging to be on, you know, going to Albany lobbying, but then also trying to build out your business, create your business plan, doing the research you have to do. But it's really important though, right now, whether there's a commentary period or not, to be really letting those people in Albany know, whether it's the Office of Cannabis Management, it's the local elected officials, because it's also an election year and there might be a change of roles in our state come the next year. And it's going to be important. Like, what do we want the regs to look like? Well, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want it to look like to get an application? What does the fee look like? Is there a cap? You know, is there not a cap? You know, we have to be having that conversation too with those folks right now, like yesterday, calling them, setting up, organizing meetings like, hey, we don't, you know, but that's again requiring us to organize on like, what is it do we want as a state, the same way we did with getting this bill. This bill came because we were there like, no, we don't want that. We don't want that. And again, it was a lot of negotiation, but we can't forget that part too, because that's why California and a lot of these states like Chicago are all screwed up, because they didn't do it the right way. And nobody was holding the pressure on these people, because we were also too busy trying to get our businesses going. But these people made decisions for us that didn't really benefit us. And look, it's harder to get a bill amended or any regulations to get that process amended. It's worse. We might as well get it done in the beginning than having to fix it later. So we have to also think about that at the same time of thinking about getting our business going. Like, it's hard for me. Like, I'm trying to get my consumption out, get my business plan. Also think about, in part of my research, think about where this state is going. Can I have a consumption lounge in my community? Will my community be able to afford a consumption, like to be able to, hang out in my consumption lounge, participate in the consumption lounge? Because we have 220,000 evictions. People, that's our people who are the social equity applicants. So are those people going to also miss opportunities to get an application because they're too busy trying to fight being evicted from their housing? But I'll stop there. That's,
Yeah, layers.
If I could just say something super quick, just building off of what Pilar said, because that was extremely on point. And what she said happened in Jersey. They went too quick. We went too fast. So things right now, shit is hitting the fan in Jersey. It's going to continue to hit the fan, as we continue on in the evolution of this. And the reason for this, that our regulations that came out in August were not subject to public comment. They were excluded from that requirement. New York's is not. So with New York, everybody will have an opportunity for public comment, which is why I'm quite patient with New York, because I do believe that they're going to try to be intentional. But Pilar is exactly right. If we do not continue to place the pressure on them, they will recycle regulations from what we've seen in other states. So one thing that I would advise everybody to do is look at Jersey's regulations. If we look at regulations in Massachusetts and Illinois, which are the two states a little closest to us in terms of regulatory compliance, it mirrors a lot of it, but New Jersey added a lot more protection for operators in terms of ownership requirements and restrictions, in terms of can you be a master services contractor? How many financial sources and can you be, and the restrictions around there in terms of property. Start looking at regulations for Jersey, because we are so close. If you do not think that our governors and our regulatory bodies are talking, like, you're way behind. They are talking. They are speaking constantly. I know this. So you have to make sure they're going to look to Jersey and they're going to see what we mess up, what we do correctly, but you can do the same thing already. If you look through New Jersey's regs, you try to see what you like, what you don't like, but understand that you're going to understand your business way better than they will. You are going to understand your challenges and your obstacles way better than they will. So if you look at it, you have the statute. New York statute's like all of 100 pages. In comparison, New Jersey's was 260 pages. The reason why it's important is because New York, you have a lot of wiggle room. You have a lot of space to expand. With Jersey, we tied the commission's hand behind their back because we put in too many restrictions in the statute. But with New York, that's not the case. So the statute lays the foundation. The magic happens in the regulations, and the shenanigans happen on the municipal level. So you need to ensure that, one, with the regulations, you get what you want in there. Regulations are easier to change. They're typically only good for 1 year before they have to be renewed. That's not the case with statutes. As Pilar was saying, it's very hard to go back and to amend it, but also get extremely, extremely involved with your municipality, especially with how many are opting out. That's what's going to happen. Right now, where I'm dealing with the most challenges and conflict is on the municipal level. And because the lack of education to these municipal officials, the fact that they don't really care, they are super behind, the cities are going to make it very difficult for applicants. And the only ones who are going to be able to really survive that are the very well capitalized ones. So it is really important to get involved, as Pilar said. And if you are somebody looking to get involved in this industry, you cannot get involved and also not advocate for it. It's a disservice to you. It's a disservice to everybody else who's been here. Advocates such as, Andrew, Safita, Pilar, myself, the Happy Monkey guys. Backup is needed.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. I'm going to wrap this up because I know you guys are probably itching to have your evening smoke just as I am. So if there's any last questions, please get it in now. If not, I just want to thank each and every one of you guys, Jessica, Amir, Antonio, let me finish here, Tucky, Safida, and am I saying your name right? Meng Yi? I want to make sure I get you right.
Manji.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time and your ability to educate us in a way that we can receive it and spread the wealth. I want to transition now to, you guys can, I'm transitioning now to the Washington Heights Inwood Development Corp. If you guys want to stay on, please, you're more than welcome. If not, enjoy your evening and be safe. We're going to transition into Leslie Mendez. She's going to present what the services of the Washington Heights and Inwood Development Corporation offer for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to get into the cannabis space. They offer free services and they're right in our community. Ms. Mendez.
Thank you, Francisco. I'm just gonna see if I can share my screen so that I can just share the presentation. Okay, let me just move this. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Leslie Mendez, and I'm a business advisor and loan officer at Washington Heights and Inwood Development Corporation. We are a nonprofit organization organized in 1978 to serve the residents and businesses in Northern Manhattan and the Western Bronx. We are here to serve and to encourage the development and retention of businesses in Upper Manhattan and the Western Bronx. And our secondary primary mission is the development of events and additional efforts to spread awareness of the cultural vitality and attractiveness of our communities to businesses, investors, and the general public. We are an Empire State Development Entrepreneur Assistance Center. As an EAC center, we provide instruction, training, technical assistance, and support services to new and aspiring entrepreneurs in local communities statewide. Our programs include the Business Operating Success System, or in other words, BOSS, which is our free technical assistance program where we provide free one-to-one technical advice to startup or established businesses. We also have the Child Care Business Development Program, which is our 26-week cycle designed to develop basic skills and knowledge needed to start and operate a successful in-home childcare service. We also produce the Medieval Festival at Fort Tryon Park. So what we basically do, and we provide services in depth on counseling on the feasibility of starting a business. We assist in refining a business concept and developing a business plan. So we will take you through and actually provide you with a business plan template and take you through the steps of what is the essential parts needed to complete a business plan. We also assist with completing the MWBE certification, which is the Minority and or Women Business Enterprises certification for the state of New York. We provide one-to-one counseling in identifying and accessing capital. We provide access to business support networks, and we also provide ongoing continued technical assistance to program graduates and other linkages to other small business services. Here is my contact information. I'll also be putting it in the chat. We are located on 177th and Wadsworth in Upper Manhattan. So I'll open it up to any questions that you guys may have as well. And thank you, Francisco, for letting us share a little bit about Washington Heights and Inwood Development Corporation.
No, thank you. You guys are going to be very, very crucial in helping a lot of our legacy folks or just folks in general who want to get into the cannabis industry, who've never thought about opening up a business, who've never thought about running a business. You guys are crucial in helping us help them kind of understand what the structure looks like and how to succeed and do it right. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I've learned a lot, and we are still, learning a lot as well about the cannabis industry. And, we're here to help, whether it be with business planning, commercial lease assistance, applying for the MWB certification, etc. However we can help.
Awesome. And we definitely want you guys to want to talk to you guys about February 21st, because I think, like I said, it's going to be in person, and I definitely want you, whoever doesn't see this, I want them to be able to still be able to find you guys easily. And, our Uptown Cannabis Forums Conference is going to be perfect to kind of align those people that are getting into the space and your services.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
We're gonna, let's see. Does anybody have any questions? Not. We're gonna wrap it up. Ms. Mendez, thank you again for your time and energy and allowing us to understand the organization a lot more today. Can I get adjournment?
A motion to adjourn.
What was that? I didn't hear you.
I made a motion to adjourn.
Oh, awesome. Can we get a second?
Second.
There it is. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. Have an amazing evening and have a better week. Bye.
Thank you.